You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
I'm back. Rodrans for Black and White Sports. Let's talk about comments that Rush Limbaugh made to a caller a couple of days ago on his show. Now, before we get started, I want to acknowledge today Rush Limbaugh gave an update on his lung cancer, and unfortunately it is not good. He was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and it had went dormant, and it is now progressing. So that's not great news. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, that is a picture of me from 2014 with my best friend, Scotty. And he was a Navy man, and in 2016, he died of stage 4 lung cancer as well. I took care of him the last 2 years of his life, as Scotty did not have any children. And that is me and Scott down. Scott was in Beaumont, and down around Mr. Matrix neck of the woods, that was at Crystal Beach, Texas. Happier times to a point. And Scott was a lifelong Dallas Cowboys fan, and he would have been mad as hell at everything the NFL players and the league has done. So, rest in peace, Scotty, and our thoughts are with Rush Limbaugh. Now, this caller by the name of John called in and said, do you believe the sports leagues will distance themselves or ditch Black Lives Matter altogether after the election? And I will go over what Rush said, and then I'll give you my 2 cents. Now, John had been on hold. He says, let me get back to John. At first stab at your question, let's deal with the NFL first. He said, because I think the NBA has learned its lesson. If the National Football League doesn't realize that, it's going to have to distance itself from Black Lives Matter. And if it doesn't figure it out and figure it out soon, then it's going to be in a world of hurt. The NBA has figured it out. The NBA has said their days being associated with Black Lives Matter are over after the season. Did you see that? The caller said, yeah, they're not going to have any logos. Rush said they're not going to have any logos. They're not going to have any slogans on the jerseys. There's not going to be anything on the court or any of that because it bombed out. As we know, the NBA ratings all-time tanked. The entire playoffs was a dumpster fire from a television rating standpoint. And then he goes on to say that's why people did not watch. People do not want to watch sports for social justice, anything. They want to watch it for all the reasons we know. The desire on all these sports people to be relevant in terms of social justice or whatever in the hell else is a marketing opportunity. It is something they've just misjudged badly. Like I've never seen marketing departments misjudge anything else. So the NFL is going to have to distance itself from an openly communist Marxist organization. It is going to have to eliminate whatever official ties it has to Black Lives Matter. If it doesn't do that, then they are going to have a real issue or be in real trouble. They're going to also have to figure out a way to get fans back in stadiums related to COVID and public health. Now, he said if Trump wins, what are they going to do? If Biden wins, what are they going to do? The caller said yes. He said it's hard to say because there's too many variables. The NFL right now is undergoing, as all industries, a transformation because of the damage, I guess, from the lockdowns and not being able to have fans. If Biden wins, as we suspect, Black Lives Matter and the radical left of the AOC begins to take over the country and implement policies that they stand for, the best thing for sports could possibly do is back way out of politics. Don't have anything to do with it. Just go back to the way they ran their business beforehand. Don't try to tie it in, because I guarantee you the vast majority of fans in the NFL are not Marxist. not communist. They're not radical leftist. And they do not want the NFL or Major League Baseball or the NBA to become that. If Biden wins, their best bet is to stay away from it. If Trump wins, then they had better pay attention to what that means in terms of the opinion of the electorate and who that is and what they represent. To me, this isn't hard, but these guys make it hard because they get caught up in assuming, for example, like politics, that Twitter is America. And it's not. Twitter is not America. But a lot of these marketing firms at major businesses assume that it is and think they've got to position themselves so they're on the right side of whatever Twitter thinks is cool and hip. And they end up doing to themselves, in many cases, irreparable damage. It's not hard. The NFL just needs to go back and study what they're doing. When they owned it, they were the number one sports enterprise. And he goes on to also talk about the fact that the NFL was built on traditional American values, okay, which is something that is we're not going to say it's getting lost. It's not getting lost. It's just that so many Americans are trying to let things run its course. Okay? Proud Americans are trying to let things run its course right now. In other words, and a lot of it does have to do with the election. I've said most of this is about the election. And he's absolutely right about Twitter. People think Twitter is real life, or that Twitter is a gauge of how the majority of people feel. I don't know anybody that can relate to almost anything that leftists believe on Twitter. Our local businesses certainly do not operate based on what social media, particularly Twitter, believes. In fact, we see it as a negative. We see the radical leftists, we see those people on Twitter, your SJWs, and that's where people are the most woke. We see those people as utter kooks out of their ever-loving minds. We would never make business decisions based around what Twitter thinks. And I believe he's right. I think a lot of it is, and we've seen it with some of the advertising around voting, because I've noticed the NFL has got voting advertising, and all of the people in the advertising, are blatant lefties. People like Pete Carroll, everybody that plays for the Seahawks, they're blatant lefties. And all this votey, it's all because they're trying to get Joe Biden elected in the office. And they hate, and this is what it's really about, they hate Donald Trump. Because the media has stirred the pot, Twitter has stirred the pot, that Donald Trump is a racist, blah, 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 blah. We know the standard operating procedures of the leftist playbook, and they're trying to run it right now in the election. And I think, oddly enough, I've said a lot of this stuff is going to disappear after the election. It's funny, Black Lives Matter popped in before the last election. Ta-da! Here we are, and we're like, who? And we're still like, ugh. But you get the point. They popped in because they're trying to drive a social narrative. I've heard out there that a lot of the racial injustice, social justice shit, there's actually a theory now that a lot of that crap being worked up into the media was to take emphasis off of Joe Biden, knowing the Hunter Biden emails were coming, which are real regardless of what Twitter, Facebook wants you to believe. So, you tell me what you think, black and white sports fans. I wish Rush Limbaugh luck, and rest in peace, Scotty. Peace, I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.